In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this underbust basque dress. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button. So to start, here is my pattern paper. First, we're going to work on the upper part. Now for this dress, you need to mark your shoulder to bust, under bust and waistline. Now for the basque, I'm adding additional 4 inches. Now this basque is not included in the full length of this dress. Now how to get this dress is you're going to measure your full length. Let's say the full length of this gown is 60, and then you minus your shoulder to waistline from it. Now let's say my own shoulder to waistline is 17. If I minus 17 from 60, I will have 43 inches. Now that lower part of the dress that is gathered, you'll be cutting at least 43 inches by 3 yards or to 4 yards. After that, I'll go in and mark my shoulder divided by 2 plus half. Then I'll come down by 1 inch. Why I added half is because this dress has a sleeve. Now I'll go ahead to mark a neckline of 3 inches. From that 3 inches, I will place my ruler and connect it to that 1 inch I have there. Now after I'm done connecting, I'll find my chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll make a mark, draw a straight line there. Now what you have on the shoulder, you will mark it back on that chest line, which is your shoulder divided by 2 plus half. Go ahead to connect it. Now I'll place back my tape and mark the midpoint, come out by ½ inch on that point, and here I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'll connect from this point to the ½ inch at the armhole and to the upper part of my shoulder this way. This is you're trying to create your armhole curve for your pattern. I'll mark out a basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches here, and I'll place my ruler to connect. Now after I'm done connecting, I'll start marking my darts. Now to mark your darts, you need your nipple to nipple divided by 2. I'll start marking this from the upper part of my pattern all the way to the lower part of my pattern also. After marking this, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to draw a straight line starting from the bust where I marked the first nipple to nipple divided by 2 to the under bust, waist and basque length. Now after I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead to come down by 1 inch. I'll mark ½ inch. I'm using a basic dart for this pattern, right? So I'll just go in and mark ½ inch on both sides of my pattern. I'm still going to blend out that part out as one piece. Now I'll place my ruler and I'll draw a straight line. After marking that, I'll just go ahead to connect from the bust down to the under bust. Now after drawing this now this way, I'll go ahead to blend it out and give it a slight curve, although I won't be cutting out this area, like this part of this pattern at the upper part. I won't be cutting out that part. So now what I'm going to do is to go ahead to insert my measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Add the sewing allowance of your choice. Mark my under bust circumference divided by 4. I'll measure this dart intake, replace it here because I'll be cutting it out the under bust at the lower part of the dress. Now after marking that, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4 here. My waist and my under bust is the same measurement, right? So just like I said, I went ahead to like blend this out, but I will not be cutting this out. I just want to blend it out so we'll continue drafting out our pattern. So after I'm done blending it out, we'll move over to the waist. So I'm going to mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, and I will replace, then go ahead to add a sewing allowance to my pattern. After I'm done marking that, you can mark what you have on the waistline on the basque length, because that part is you're not really going to connect it much later. Now I'll place my ruler and I will connect my pattern. Now after I'm done connecting, we are now going to go ahead to alter this dress to get the design that we want. After outlining my pattern, what I'm going to do is to mark my bust dart. Now to get your bust down is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17 inches while my shoulder to waist at the back is 15 and a half. Now take out 15 and a half from 17, you have 1.5. That is how you get your bust dart. The reason why we add bust dart is so that the shoulder to waist of the front and the shoulder of the waist of the back will blend, like it will match together when you're done blending out the dart that you added by the bust area of your pattern. Now after I'm done marking this, I'll come up by 1.5 inches from my under bust and I'll connect my neckline. I'll place it this way and I'll go ahead to connect it all the way to the upper part of my pattern, that is the neckline of this dress, right? After marking that, I'll come down by this point and I'll mark 1 inch. Now if you look at this pattern, it's as if from the under bust they connected it at the 1 inch after the under bust, while in some of the dress is as if they connected it 1 inch after on top of the under bust. So any one that you want to use is okay. I connected from this point to the dart, and from the dart at this area I slanted it down. So just like I said, you can also connect it like 1 inch above the under bust, and I'll go ahead to connect. Now moving over to the basque area, make sure you come in by your sewing allowance first. Now you now go ahead to blend your darts. That is, if your sewing allowance is 3 inches, go in on a straight line, then blend your pattern and connect it, drawing out your basque. Now this is what I have here. This is center and this is side, and this is the upper part of my dress. Now I'm going to go ahead to cut this out. So after cutting this out, we will draft out the back. Now while cutting this side, please go ahead to blend in your darts and you're going to cut it out, right? And then cut out the rest of the pattern. So if you have any questions, you can kindly go ahead to ask. So I'll just cut out the shoulder now. I'll go ahead to cut out the under bust this way. Now I won't cut out these darts, right? Here I'll blend this out so that you have one piece for the under bust. Now you notice there's a slight ruche at the under bust, like a slight gathered effect there. So I'll just go ahead to open this up a little so that when I spread it out, I'll just spread out little at the under bust area, then just gather it back. It's not going to be so much, just a little gathers, just like you have. So now if you pleat this, or to get the lower part of this dress, now let's say that this dress does not have a basque, it's going to stop at this waistline, right? So what you do is measure from your shoulder to waistline. Now let's say the full length of your dress is 60 inches and your shoulder to waist is 17. Now you take out 17 from that 60 inches. What you have is 43 inches. Now you should at least have like 3 yards by 43, but you won't be cutting that exact 43. You add like extra 2 inches for folding and turn up allowance for this dress. Then you're going to gather it round the waistline of this dress. Another thing I noticed that in this dress, some of the waistline has a pointy basque while some are roundish. So I cut out the part that has a pointy basque. If you don't want to make it pointy, you can just go ahead to make that part a little roundish and not pointy. Moving over to the back, I've gone ahead to cut out all my measurements. Now there's no much difference between the front and the back. The only difference is that there's a zipper, and then my shoulder to waist at the back is 15 and a half, while the shoulder to waist in front is 17 and a half, and the pattern at the back is stopping at the waistline, right? There's no basque at the waistline of this dress. And for the neckline, I used 3 inches by 1. Next, I'll start marking my dart, which I'll start marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2 on the bust and on the waistline. Now I'll place my ruler and draw a straight line. Mark ½ inch on both sides of this dart, right? That is on the waistline of this dress. I'll mark ½ inch, extend it up. So when I'm extending it up, I'll make sure that I come down at least 1 inch after the bust line. At the waistline, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4. and I'll measure the dart intake I have there at the waist, replace it, because whatever you take out you replace and add your sewing allowance. At the bust, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and also add my sewing allowance. Now I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'll draw a straight line. Now after drawing out a straight line, I'm going to go ahead to outline. Now I'll go ahead to work on my zipper budge. I'll mark half inch, place my ruler and I'll extend it all the way to the upper part. Now after marking this, my back pattern is ready and I'll cut it out. So for the back pattern, it is stopping at the waistline. That is why we blended our bust dart at the front, so that the waistline of the front and the back will match. Now just like we calculated the lower part of this dress, you need about 3 to 4 yards of fabric for the lower part. Now after cutting out, this is what the pattern looks like. If you can blend out your dart if you're the type that don't like sewing dart and cut, or you can stitch up your dart while sewing.